Guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week. And before I get started, at the end of the video, we talk about the viewer's pick of the week. So in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week for a chance to be featured. And also, before I jump into the weekly books, I kind of want to do an overview of what I expect and what I want to see in comics for 2025, since it's a new year. And honestly, I feel like, and this is coming from a Marvel fan, I think if Marvel brings out some books that are more, almost feels like independent books, or more character driven, and really brings the wow factor because of their character driven storylines, I feel like Marvel will be in a good place. And I think DC in the last couple of years has been doing that, really putting creators first, putting those characters first, and making those characters and what the creators want to do to bring those bigger moments into the DC universe. Like Absolute Power, I think, did a great job at that, and I want to see more of that from Marvel. We do have this Doctor Doom event coming up that, look, I always hope if events go well, but it does feel very similar to all the other events we've been getting to see from Marvel, and really focusing more on, we gotta tie this to the MCU, then this is the story we're telling in Marvel, and it's gonna be such a great story that the MCU is gonna want to use it. And I want to see that more for the comic book industry, because I always say if you have a strong big two, you're gonna have a strong comic book industry, because then fans will start falling in love with these creators, and those creators most likely will make independent books, and they're like, oh wow, these indie books are great, and you kind of just get into the bigger space of comics. And something I also want to go see is just more people trying out books outside their comfort zone. There's obviously a really big market for Webtoon. There's a huge market for Kickstarter, and I want to see that Venn diagram kind of grow more. I feel like a lot of people are just like kind of in their lane. It's like either you're a Kickstarter fan, you're a Webtoon fan, or you're a direct market fan, and I want to see that grow. I want to see more Kickstarter books going into the direct market, more Webtoon books going into bookstores, or more Marvel characters becoming Webtoons, or doing more of those Transformers, G.I. Joe books on Kickstarter. I think if those three are linked more, you're going to get a wider fan base for comics, which is just going to make a healthier industry. So yeah, that's more what I want to go see. I want to see stronger DC and Marvel stories. I want to see creators first, characters first, in all the different spaces of comics. But let me know in the comments below, how would you like to improve 2025's comic books, and what would you like to see from the industry? And let's get started talking about the first week of comics for 2025. And number 11 for me is Justice League, The Atom Project, issue 1. I will say I think this was more inside baseball for people who like Atom, which is a character who is kind of a C-lister. You had him on, Legends of Tomorrow, but that's probably the most mainstream he's been. You had a big role in Identity Crisis that was over 20 years ago. We haven't had a lot of Atom, so I wanted this to be a little bit more for new readers. And I also think for me, the artwork is what really took me out of it. I didn't expect it to be as dark as it was. So for me, it's just because I didn't have a background, it was just harder to get into. And I'd be curious if you're a big Atom fan, how you felt about that book. So giving that one 2 stars, and that is number 11. Moving on to number 10, which is Batman issue 156. This is definitely more personal preference of why this is so low. I just haven't really been liking this art. I feel like the Riddler stuff feels very similar to what we've gotten before. I'm not as interested in the Jim romance that he has with this girl, and I'm curious to see where this book goes after this arc and after Hush. I do feel like it's stalling a little bit for time, because you do have the Hush arc coming up, and then we don't really know what the future of Batman is going to be after that. I want to see if it's going to be a new chapter or not, but this does feel very one leg in the old stuff now going into this new transition. So giving that one 2.5 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is a book that I normally do not pick up, but I decided to because Black Cat was in it, and that is The Avengers. I really liked Jed MacKay's run of Black Cat. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, because I'm like, why does Black Cat need her own book? But he made all the reasons for why she should have her own book. So to see him write her again, I was excited for. But this does the thing that I don't love about comics, and it is the misleading of like, okay, here they are, they're on the cover, and then the issue has almost nothing to do with Black Cat until the end, and she's teaming up with the villain, so she's not really part of the Avengers yet. And I was like, oh wow, I only really picked this up for Black Cat, so to have all the mumbo jumbo before that, I wanted this to be more about her, and that was a bit disappointing. And of course, it's a team book, so You also have to know that going in, that team books are hard. You gotta really, how do you bring that character oomph all while you have all these characters speaking? And I feel like that's been the lackluster part for Avengers for me, and why I dropped it in the first place, is that there's all these interesting characters, but how do you fit all their stories to make it have a lot of heart? And the artwork was okay for this book as well. So overall, giving that one 2.5 stars. I was disappointed by kind of the misleadingness of it. And I don't know if it really hooked me enough to want to get that next issue, even though Black Cat's in it. Moving on to number 8, which is Shazam issue 19. I thought this was an improvement. I liked the connection with Billy and his girlfriend, and then finding out, of course, the girlfriend is teaming up with the villain, so that's interesting. But I liked her heartwarming backstory, and then, you know, it's the end of the arc. It's just Freddy teaming up again with Shazam, and everything's okay for the most part, even though Mary Marvel's got some stuff going on. The thing that does bring this down, though, is the art. I do feel like the art's been a lot stronger for this book up to this arc. Just felt like it just wasn't as clean as those previous issues. So overall, giving that 3 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is X Factor issue 6, a little lower than usual, but it's mostly just point A to point B. A lot happened last issue. Polaris got coming back, one of the team members dying, and it really is just the aftermath of that, without as much of the emotion. It really is just putting chess players in the right place with some amazing artwork. So, but it was a bit of a talking head issue. So giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Spider-Gwen, the Ghost Spider. Another book that I feel like has a darker palette than necessary for the book, but I like the stories, even though she's still in the 616. I like her angst about leaving her family. I like this new Black Tarantula. It is a similar story I've seen from Mayday Parker's Spider-Girl like 20 years ago, but I like seeing this kind of anti-hero character who should be a villain trying to team up with the good guy. I like it. Again, I do think the art is a little bit too dark for the story. I do think this would be a much stronger story if it just was in Earth 65, but I'm curious to see where it's going to end up going. So giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Birds of Prey, issue 17. And I like the art a lot for this. I feel like it's gotten a lot stronger. And this is what I'm saying, that I feel like there was a little bit more of heart in this team book. Even though they're trying to balance so many characters, it's mostly just about Cassandra. It's about saving her. It's about especially Black Canary and Oracle kind of working towards that. They obviously save the day. We get to hang out with the Amazons a little bit. And I thought it was just a good end to the arc and a fun adventure to kind of build this team a little bit stronger. So overall, giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Cable, Love, and Chrome, issue 1. This one really surprised me. I didn't know you could kind of have this, I didn't know if there was going to be a romance story, but obviously the title kind of shows you there probably would be. I didn't really know what to expect that with Cable, because he's a little bit more of this 90s big guy action story. But we also know that he's had some good emotional stories, especially with Hope. And I like the balance between emotion and I'm the 90s tough guy here. I think it really celebrates why this character's fun and why he works, all while trying to bring a little bit of heart, especially with his virus and now him hanging out with this girl. So I liked it. I thought it was a really good love letter to the character while still trying to do something new. So overall, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Absolute Superman, issue 3. I've been really enjoying this book. I like all the Absolute titles. I like it celebrates everything that Superman is, all while trying to do something different, which is what an alternate universe should do. This is the version of Superman if his parents went to Earth with him. And we get to see where Martha Kent is because of that. We get to see that Clark is still a lot of the same person, especially when it comes to his writing. But I'm also curious to see how that's going to change him as a character, because he obviously wasn't raised by the Martha and Jonathan. So I want to see where that continues, and I thought this was a good point A to point B to kind of build those characters even more and build that mythos. And I like the darker palette for the book as well. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that actually I think that was 4 stars, and that is number 3. It is 4 stars. Moving on to number 2, which is Batgirl, issue 3. I love Cassandra's voice, and I miss Cassandra's voice. It's been a really long time since she's been a focal point of a comic, and I think this book does a really good job at her just analyzing her surroundings and looking at that, all while she is figuring out why she doesn't want to be like her mother, and why she's kind of sticking around with her family, and why that's her, the Bat family, and why that's her true family, and how those people shaped her. All while you're getting some interesting characters like Nis Al Ghul show up. So it's like building this underground Gotham that we all enjoy, the more assassin side, especially with Cassandra, all while Cassandra's still trying to be that bat hero we all know and love. So I like the conflict. I think the art's really good, and I think this is the perfect type of Cassandra book. So give me that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, starting out the year right, and that is Saga, issue 71. This does everything I love about Saga. It's a very character-driven issue. The art really sells that emotion, where we get to see Hazel have this complicated relationship with her best friend wanting a family figure, that family, Hazel and her mom, not really being able to give that, and just the complicated relationships of friendship and miscommunication that I kind of love that Brian K. Vaughan always does. Is just like the day-to-day, really heightening that and showing how that could be its story all on its own, especially a sci-fi story. And then same thing for Alana's character, where she has to deal with the loss of her husband still and what that means for her future relationships, and now connecting to her father. So that was a pretty cool cliffhanger as well. So I really liked it. I'm really curious to see where that's going to take our characters, and overall gave that one 4.5 stars. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite book of the week was. And last week's viewer pick of the week was Detective Comics, and here are some comments about this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and hopefully you guys enjoyed. Bye.